Lily-mai Hurrell St. George suffered a fatal brain injury, 18 rib fractures, and a broken leg. She was 10 weeks old and had been shaken violently to death in 2018 in London. In this case, though, no one spent a single day in jail over what happened to her. This is story one. I also have another story coming after. Stay tuned. She weighed little more than a few bags of sugar when she was born prematurely at 31 weeks in London's Barnet Hospital. After 2 months, hooked up to tubes in the neonatal unit, receiving specialist care due to medical complications associated with her birth, she appeared to have made good progress. She was seen seated in her pink baby carrier, wearing a matching pink bonnet and cardigan. Just days, possibly only a matter of hours after that photograph was taken, Lily-mai was dead. Her mother, Lauren St. George, who was 25, was convicted of infanticide but found not guilty of murder or manslaughter, a verdict which recognized that her mind may have been disturbed by a failure to recover from childbirth. Some call this postpartum depression. As a result, the judge assured her she will receive no more than a suspended sentence. Lauren, seen smiling on her mobile phone outside court at a previous hearing, is not someone who easily engenders sympathy. However, she and Lily-mai's father, Darren Hurrell, who was also 25, were cleared of any crime, and they were not the only ones on trial in the court. Social workers from Haringey, the local authority, with perhaps the worst record for child protection failures in the country, were metaphorically speaking at least on trial too. Almost every staff member who looked after Lily-mai in hospital, from the doctors to the nurses to the midwives, were opposed to her being discharged into the custody of her parents. In the words of the prosecutor, the couple were woefully unsuited to care for her. Lauren was not a normal mother, social workers were told, and appeared to be incapable of putting her daughter's needs before her own. She couldn't bond with her in any meaningful way or even show any interest in her. They were told all this, how Lauren used to stand with her back to Lily-mai, speaking on her mobile phone in the special care unit, how she blamed Lily-mai for not letting her sleep. She even moaned about the groaning noises Lily-mai made and wished she would just cry instead. The red flags about her behavior went beyond the anecdotal. Reports were written, meetings were held, and the hospital made a referral directly to Haringey. They expressed concern about the potential safety and well being of Lily-mai under the present domestic arrangements for her. It was revealed that Lawrence suffered from depression and was sectioned for a brief time, and that she has another child who resided with the father. The council Haringey must have known this, yet the warnings were not taken seriously enough. 6 days after leaving Barnet Hospital in January 2018, Lauren called 999 to report that her baby had stopped breathing. Lauren lost her temper before Lily-mai pulling and twisting her leg. At the emergency department at North Middlesex University, her parents were told that Lily-mai might die. Darren responded by crying. Lauren had a brief smile on her face, which the doctor thought was an abnormal reaction. Lily-mai was subsequently transferred to Great Ormond Street Hospital, where her life support machine was switched off 2 days later. A post mortem found evidence of forcible shaking and gripping on the side of Lily-mai's chest, as well as twisting and pulling of her leg, which could be explained on the basis of a single episode of violence. If your child is frustrating you, that is normal. Why on earth are you pulling their leg? Now, there was a delay in bringing criminal proceedings due to the Metropolitan Police initially claiming there was insufficient evidence to prosecute. They only acted when, after an inquest last year, the coroner ruled that Lily-mai had been unlawfully killed. For those who loved Lily-mai during her fleeting time in this world, it's been a long 5 years, because remember this happened in 2018. Her paternal great aunt, who spoke after the trial ended, laid bare the family's feeling in a powerful handwritten open letter. She said, "In our hearts, we knew that Lily-May was brutally and cruelly taken from our family by the one person who should have loved her most, her mother, Lauren. We attended her funeral and traveled miles to be there. But where was Lauren? There was no sign of her. She failed to attend her own daughter's funeral. Not one member of her family side went. The council, which issued an apology at the end of the trial, accepted that Lily-May did not receive the care and protection she deserved, and that there were clearly lessons to be learned. Lessons to be learned? That is nothing for the child. The public were assured that improvements which could have better protected Lily-May were now in place. The social worker allocated to Lily-May had 41 cases, but that worker only had 2 years' experience. Now, as for Lily-May, the world she arrived into could not have been more dysfunctional. Her parents were teenagers when they met in 2017. Lauren, who never knew her mother and was brought up by her late father, was homeless when she met Darren. It is unclear how she slipped through the net, but her background life couldn't have been easy. By the time she got together with Darren, who had also recently been made homeless, he was living in a housing association flat somewhere in North London. When Lauren, a habitual user of marijuana, according to relatives, moved in, they were both evicted for breaching the tenancy agreement. And remember, in America, marijuana is no longer a big deal. In England, I think it still is. I could be wrong though. The couple were eventually given temporary accommodation in Enfield before being found in a ground floor flat in a converted Edwardian terrace in a part of London called Duckett's Green. Lauren, whose father was a television installer at one time, never worked, but Darren got a job as a shift manager at a nearby KFC outlet. Neighbors told of constant rows, with the police being called on one occasion. They were pretty much arguing every day, said one resident who remembers them. The resident said that you could hear them shouting. She would get emotional and he would try to calm her down. I remember him saying on one occasion, "Lauren, Lauren," and she would be screaming. Even for the doctors at Barnet Hospital, Lauren caused alarm from the start. One incident was particularly concerning and epitomized her disinterested and uncaring attitude towards her daughter. The nurse said, "Let's go and see Lily-May." To which Lauren replied, "No, I'm having my dinner." Such incidents became an almost daily occurrence and were logged in a nursing report compiled by a community neonatal sister attached to the hospital. One entry read, "Mum had been informed that Lily-May needed blood transfusion, but they did not either phone or visit until father came on his own the next day." Also recorded in the log was, "Mum was very open about the fact that she gets angry very easily, and it was causing concern as to how she would manage if it was Lily-May who had perhaps caused the trigger." Nevertheless, not long afterwards, on January the 22nd, 2018, a discharge planning meeting was held in which hospital staff, social services, and the parents of Lily-May met to discuss her care going forward. There was no robust discharge plan to safeguard Lily-May. The manager in charge of allocating health visitors to families in Haringey, and herself a former health visitor, would later tell the court judge that in their 12 years as a health visitor, they had never had such a feeling of anxiety about a case as much as it did about Lily-May being discharged. And it's right here where the local authorities, the council, the social services, this is where they are liable too. When they had this feeling that something wasn't right, they should never have let the child into the parents' hands. But then the parents also have rights, so I guess it is kind of confusing. After all, the hospital had no legal powers to detain Lily-May, so 3 days after the meeting, and despite the potential risk, she was discharged into the care of Lauren and Darren. The reason became apparent when lead social worker Teresa Ferguson, who had qualified as a social worker just 2 years earlier, gave evidence in the trial. She broke down in the witness box as she recalled how she had gone above her manager at one point to voice the strength of her concern that Lily-May might be at risk. She was overruled. The barrister said to her, "You have been guided by those more experienced than you. You even went above your manager at one point, but your hands were tied about what you could personally achieve. The day before Lily May's eventual discharge on January the 25th, 2018, police were called to the parents' flat over a domestic row. Social services was said to have assured nurses they would visit the family daily, yet no visits were made to the family on the 27th, 28th, and 29th. Then 2 days later, on January the 31st, Miss Ferguson returned to see Lily May's parents and informed them that it had been decided that all three of them must stay in a social services monitored residential center, or Lily May, who had developed pale and mottled skin, would be removed. That sounds like social services jail in a sense. I didn't even know these monitored residential centers existed. Huh? And you know what Lauren said back to Ferguson? You want to take her? Take her then. I don't care. Lauren's temper had been highlighted in the nursing report at Barnet Hospital, which questioned what might happen if Lily May was the trigger. 5 hours after Miss Ferguson left, Lauren did snap and attacked Lily May in a fit of rage. Haringey Council was singled out for severe criticism. The coroner said, I have heard the evidence of several professionals who were charged with the care of Lily May. The doctors and nurses at Barnet Hospital, who were extremely concerned about her, did not believe it was safe for her to be discharged in the care of her parents. There were other parents who were aware of the same view, and yet Haringey Children's Services did facilitate that discharge, and that is ultimately bewildering to me. This is a very, very sad story, and I'm afraid it is not the first time this story has been told. The coroner then went after Haringey, the council. He said there is a risk that future deaths might occur unless action is taken. It was a damning indictment of Haringey's handling of the case. There probably isn't a social services department in the country that hasn't been the subject of criticism at one time or another. And in the trial, the jury deliberated for more than 11 hours to find Lauren not guilty of murder and manslaughter. However, a majority of 10 to 1 found her to be guilty of infanticide, an alternative verdict to murder, where a mother kills her child while her mind is disturbed by a failure to recover from the effects of childbirth. Lauren and Darren were both cleared of a separate charge of child cruelty. Cleared. They were cleared. What? Prosecutor Sally O'Neill said Lily May's death could almost definitely have been avoided if she had not been discharged into the care of two people who were woefully unsuited to caring for her. Today, the parents of Lily May have split. Lauren lives in a flat in a multi-story block in Enfield. She claims she's still depressed. Postpartum no joke, that's for sure, but in this case, does it apply? You've seen me cover postpartum before. Postpartum is grave. You don't mess with that. But in my experience, she just did not want the child. Classless clown. Now we move on to story number 2. Leyland James had been placed in the care of Laura Castle and her husband Scott in August 2020 in the north of England. But 5 months later, on January the 6th, 2021, paramedics found the toddler unresponsive and floppy when they attended the couple's home in Cumbria. Leyland James died the following day after doctors found that his heart wasn't beating and that he had a head injury. Laura Castle said he sustained the injury by falling from a sofa. But the court heard how she had then searched online for what might cause a bleed on the brain while the toddler lay in hospital, as her story began to unravel. And later, a post mortem finding confirmed that the child suffered a traumatic head injury, which wasn't an accident. During her trial at Preston Crown Court, the foster mum pleaded guilty to manslaughter after admitting that she shook the baby so that he would stop crying. But this is where it gets worse. Listen to this. Text shared between Laura and her husband revealed that she referred to the child as a proper knobhead, a and a shitbag. She also admitted to sucking the child in the messages. Now, whenever I talk to my friends, my son comes up. My friends also have children too. How do you talk about your children? Yeah, he's doing good. He's about to go to school. Yeah, he loves playing with other kids. These are normal conversations, these are normal responses. I've never, ever, ever in my life, and I never would, badmouth my son behind his back. I'm not even to his face. But you see what I'm saying? I would never say, you know, my son, he's such a moron. He's so annoying. I hate him so much. Why would you even say that? Why would you say that about your kids? I mean, if you have a spouse and or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, I would never say that anyway in terms of any family member, right? Partner, child, or whatever. But that kind of language, when I hear other people do it, pisses me off. In one text message, she wrote, I honestly really don't like him lately. He's an absolute moaning whinge bag, and I totally regret doing this. Doing this as in becoming a foster mother. Why did she become the mother? Give me a minute, I'll come on to that. She said in a text message, I'm going to lose my mind. He is just pissing me off all the time. Can never just have a nice day or night ever. She went on to say, I need to stop abusing him because if I start, I'll not stop at one point and it's not going to get us anywhere and then I feel bad. The court also heard that a social worker had reported concerns about the foster mum after she had branded the baby lazy and big. Now, I'm a respectful guy for the most part. Who's she calling big, huh? But more importantly, how are you calling a child lazy? I believe he was around 1 years old, right? How are you calling him lazy? What do you want a 1 year old to do? They're all lazy. They're all fun. They're all bubbly. And this is just what children do. They run around, they sit down. How are they lazy, you muppet? Then a review took place where officials told the couple that they would not support permanently placing the child with them unless they undertook therapeutic work. Money. The foster money is why they did it. The court heard that the couple instead plowed ahead with the adoption proceedings. The couple exchanged further texts on September the 23rd, with Laura telling her husband she had leathered the child and she was at her wits' end. She added, I'm just an abusive parent, it so seems. A jury later found Laura Castle guilty of murdering Leland James, sentencing her to life, while Scott Castle was acquitted. Following the verdict, Joanne Close, the senior Crown prosecutor, called former foster mom self centered, abusive, and violent. She said his birth mother believed he would be safe and have a good life. His foster parents cared for and loved him for 8 months. They described him as a beautiful little boy with the most contagious laugh. But his life was cruelly cut short by the actions of Laura Castle. She was self centered, abusive, and violent, and unfit to provide a home to this vulnerable child. The Crown prosecution worked very closely with Cumbria police to build the strongest possible case. Laura Castle was given no option but to admit at the start of the trial that she had caused his death. The jury had the evidence they needed to find her guilty. Furthermore, during the trial, it was also revealed that information about drinking, debts, and mental health that could have prevented the murder was not shared between the agencies. I also found that when the mother told social workers she was struggling to bond with the child, not enough support was placed. Precise details of what happened may never be known, but the trial court heard that Laura lost her temper with the baby when he would not stop crying after breakfast and then she shook him. In a letter to the trial judge, the baby's biological mother said he was placed in the home of a monster. She said her son would be alive today if she had been allowed to keep him, and she criticized the actions of the county council. She said, why did they place him there? Why did it take them so long to pick up on it? They should have cancelled the adoption order. At the time of the adoption assessment, Lauren told a therapy service that she was drinking 6 bottles of wine a week and had issues with low mood, anxiety, and anger management. She talked about shouting too much at her biological daughter. Concern about her drinking was also raised by a consultant gastroenterologist, and the information was shared with her GP. A report said Lauren told a social worker she was struggling and was worried she did not love the baby as she had expected to. John Reedman, the executive director for People and Cumbria County Council, said the authority was deeply sorry and offered its condolences. You know, on a separate note, I don't like apologies personally. You know why? Because I don't need your acknowledgement. It does nothing. You know what I mean? Particularly in this case, look what happened. What does an apology do? He said Lauren went through an 8-month assessment process and no concerns were raised by anyone in any agency about their suitability. What we know now, from the trial and this review, is that Laura deliberately and repeatedly misled and lied to social workers about vitally important aspects of her life, including her mental and physical health, her alcohol use, and debts. We also know now that relevant information about Laura was not shared between agencies and that more could have been done. If we had the full picture of Laura's life, then the assessment of her suitability as an adopter would have become clearer. Now, at the end of this video, right, it's only just come to me that the first story, her name is Lauren, the second story, her name is Laura. Interesting coincidence. Maybe that's the new Karen, I don't know. But in the first story, it seems to me she just did not want the child. Postpartum depression? For sure, she experienced it, no doubt. But she didn't want the child and she just didn't care. I mean, the fact that she's on her phone with her back to the baby, to me, that kind of says everything. She didn't want to see the baby, she was too busy eating. That says everything. But for Laura Castle, it seems to me she did it because she was broke, as in, why she took the baby in the first place. Then, when she had the baby, she realized the gravity of what she had. She realized what was taken away. I mean that in a good way. When you have a child, as a parent, you sacrifice some of your freedoms, right? She realized some of her freedoms are now gone, which is strange because she had a biological child anyway, which leads me back to the original point. She did it for the money. What a sad story. This child's life was taken because a woman who couldn't stop drinking, the silly cow, wanted money, so she decided to adopt a child for money and then murder the child. I mean, make it make sense. As I said before, classless clowns.